Hey everyone, Boylon here, and hope you're all having an awesome day. For today's video, I wanted to take a bit of a step back and do a video more aimed towards the early to mid-game players, and some of the audience that I believe I have based on comments and people reaching out to me. I know that as a newer player, this game can be a bit overwhelming, especially now when it comes to the amount of characters that are in the roster. So for this video, I wanted to give some of my personal recommendations for characters to farm out of both the campaigns that you'll be going through and that are available in the various game mode stores, as there's a lot of characters in those stores, but many that aren't particularly relevant or useful for the early to mid-game player. So we'll be going through this together and hopefully make some sense out of it, and by the end of it, maybe it'll provide some clear way forward for those particular players. And of course, I'm welcome to criticism, so if you don't agree with what I have to say, then feel free to leave that in the comments below as well. But without further ado, let's get into it. And so for this particular part of the video, I do want to give a shout out to Excelsior616 on the MSF Infographics Discord channel. This is where I found this infographic because, as you all know, I'm not really skilled in art. I don't make infographics. I'm not really good at it as far as I'm aware. So we are kind of borrowing this for the purposes of this video, but it's a great infographics, and I have it expanded on my Google Chrome here, which we'll go and look at. But I'm assuming this is the person who did the infographic since he posted it. If not, then also we have here, it makes reference to Discord AMVX2169. So thank you, whoever you are, if it's Excelsior or this AMVX who made the guide. Thank you for that. It's an amazing guide. It was last updated a week and a half ago or so on August the 1st. So it's fairly up to date for the most part, with the exception of Ironheart, who is now farmable in the latest Villains Chapter 7-9 here, so that hasn't been reflected there. But otherwise, it's quite up to date. So first of all, if you're a newer player, I mean, you're first starting off with the Heroes Assemble campaign, otherwise known as the Heroes campaign. So there's a lot of characters in this particular campaign that aren't really all that useful, to be honest. So just to go through this here, if you are a newer player, probably the best one of the bunch is going to be Punisher. Now, he is not quite he's sort of part of the Defenders team, but you don't actually necessarily need to have him, and he is a good standalone character as well, at least in the beginning part of the game. Other than that, there's a lot of these characters that you don't really need to bother unlocking or farming. Characters like Yondu has been well past its expiry. Shield Medic is okay, but you don't necessarily need him either. And for, well, let's zoom, can I scroll this in? Yeah, there we go. So, and Bullseye as well, not that amazing, although more useful now in the Merc Taskmaster team, but this isn't super relevant for the sort of early game, mid-game player. Hand Assassin, also kind of garbo. Luke Cage, Elektra, Shield Security, you know, all of these characters here along the way really aren't that necessary. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you start with Luke Cage, if I'm not wrong, or correct me there if I am. And so as we go along through the Heroes campaign, the only real character that's really of any value probably is Captain America, but even then, like, you don't need to farm him. At this point, there's so many other better characters. We're not going to go over Heroes Chapter 7, though. These are pretty late game, so for the purposes of this video, we don't really need to go through that. Now, before we get to the other campaigns and stuff as well, I do want to scroll to the bottom of the list. So what I recommend normally for newer and mid-game players is focusing on the legendary characters, because you want to get the most bang for your buck. So when it comes to farming, especially out of the stores, the characters that you're really going to want to focus is for these legendaries. Now, these characters on the left, what I call the left half, so Star-Lord, Iron Man, Nick Fury, and Magneto. Star-Lord is a really good legendary, but you don't really need him anymore, and a lot of people might recommend you to farm Guardians, but personally, I don't think you have to. I don't think Star-Lord is completely necessary for any part of the game anymore. You know, if this was maybe 9 months ago, I might have said, you know, that he's a must-have, but he's not a must-have. Personally, people on the right half here, so Phoenix, Shuri, Invisible Woman, Black Bolt, and Ebony Maw. These are the ones that you really want to work towards, and the faster that you can unlock these, the quicker that you're going to make progress in the game. So really, to that end, that you should be working on these types of characters. So for Phoenix is going to be a little bit harder, especially for newer players, because you need Villain Mystic Controllers, and there's only 6 of them. But in terms of Shuri and Invisible Woman, you can unlock them with one team of Sinister 6, and these are very easy to farm for newer players, and 3 of them exist in stores, so that makes it easier. For Black Bolt is a little bit tougher. You need Asgardian characters, and Hela typically is the hardest one to farm, and that's going to be in the late game Villains chapter. But if you can work towards it, and you know, I think we're in a really lucky time period for newer players, because you have the The Loki unlock for August this month, and then last month was Minerva, another good character, not for legendaries, but in general, a very good character worth leveling and gearing up as well. So it's a good time for a newer player, I would say, now than it was before, because of the characters that you have available to you. And so we'll scroll back up, and yeah, so, you know, Minerva is a very difficult character to get. So the fact that she was given away, you know, for relatively for free, or she was for free in July, that gives people a really strong advantage now playing in the game. So we're gonna go back through the store. Sorry, we're gonna go back up through the villains campaign anyways really quickly. Just I'm gonna point out a few characters that might be worth taking up. So again, in the heroes, you don't really even need to go too far. Like as soon as you unlock the villains campaign, I forget what is it, level 20, 15, something like that. You know, then I think that's where you can move on to the villains campaign. Now, I did a really quick cutaway there just for a second, because after I said that about the villains campaign, I realized that I found this link here on the support page for Fox Next, or now Scopely, about when they unlock. So villains does unlock at player level 13, so now that I know, and when you have 3 villains characters. Nexus is when you complete Villains Chapter 3, and then Cosmic is once you completed Heroes Chapter 6, and when you have 5 Cosmic characters, and Mystic is player level 55. So in case you didn't know that, and I'll zoom in here. Oh, my head's blocking part of this, but in case you didn't know, these are the requirements for some of these chapters, so you can always pause the video and watch that there. So knowing that, we can go back here and go through the characters that I'd like to recommend for these campaigns here. So again, Bullseye, he's still on 2 nodes now. Shield Medic also on 2 nodes. Hawkeye, these aren't real characters that you really need. You know, to be honest, going through this, the first thing that really pops out to me is Merc Lieutenant. Now, he's kind of one of those drag and drop characters you can kind of use kind of almost anywhere, but he is a good villains character. He's a good random support character that you need. He's also a Merc for the Payday Flash event. He's, to some degree, he's worth unlocking, and if you are lacking a villains character or someone who can buff, he's actually pretty decent. Now, moving along, the rest of them are pretty garbage. You know, Handblade Master, Night Nurse, Shield Trooper, Wasp. None of these characters really stand out. Now, the first one that does is Mystique. Now, 5/6. Villains 5/6 is a bit later, I think, but in terms of where she can be used to unlock Magneto. Now, it's, again, one of those sort of on the left-hand side of the legendaries that I mentioned, but, you know, isn't too bad anyways. And Nobu. So, Nobu is a trashy character, but you need her, sorry, itching my nose here, but you do need her to unlock Phoenix, so he is worth sharding up for that reason. If you don't have anyone else to farm at the present moment, then I would consider Nobu here now. And then America Chavez is okay, but again, not really relevant to what you need to get to in terms of the legendary, in terms of the legendary characters. So, moving on to the Nexus campaign, because I think that even unlocks, what did I say here? After you beat Villains Chapter 3. So you'll unlock this well before you even get to around here. Again, Captain America 1-3. Nexus 1-3 is actually much easier to farm than Hero 6-9, so if you want a Captain America for whatever reason, then you can get him here. Iron Fist, Nexus 1-9. If you do want to build the Defenders, I don't really recommend it, but, you know, he is a healer for that team, and if you do want to unlock him, he is here at Nexus 1-9, which is pretty easy to get to. After that, Groot at 2-9 actually probably is my... I wouldn't say it's... I wouldn't not recommend it. Like, you know, if you want him, he is there. If you want to work towards Star-Lord, then Groot is definitely someone you need to work towards, and this is a pretty easy farm. So, you know, if you want to get towards Star-Lord, then start farming up Groot here. After that, we're kind of moving along. Nothing really stands out to me, you know, that you really need, except for Green Goblin. So here at Nexus 5/6, once you get there, he's a Spider-Verse character, which can work to unlock Shuri, and then you need Sinister Six specifically to unlock Invisible Woman. So I would recommend farming Green Goblin as soon as you can to work towards that. And the rest of them, I would say Venom at 6/9 as you go through the nodes. Venom is a symbiote character, very great on raids, and if you did happen to unlock Symbiote Spider-Man in the last pass of the milestones, then he would work very well with them. Or if you're a mid-game player and you definitely have Symbiote Spider-Man unlocked, then make sure you're farming Venom up, because the combination of all the symbiote characters, the 3 symbiotes, Venom, and we'll talk about Carnage later as we go down to the War Store, and Symbiote Spider-Man, the 3 of them together are super strong, can really get you through almost any raids that you need to do, and they're amazing, frankly. The rest of these characters, not too necessary. I don't remember what power level this Nexus Chapter 7 is, but Hand Assassin is required to unlock Phoenix, and she is not a very good character, because normally I would say to farm Hela for Phoenix, but if you can't access Hela, you can access Hand Assassin, and a lot of the other villain mystics are more readily available to farm than Hela. So while I wouldn't recommend it, you do need them to 6-star. It's a bit of an investment on Hand Assassin, and since Hand hasn't had a rework, it's kind of garbo, but you will unlock her well before you'll unlock Hela. So if you want to get a head start on farming and prepping for Phoenix, then then consider Hand Assassin for that. Now moving along, Cosmic's campaign, Shocker here, 1-9. You definitely want to get on him for farming, again for the same reason as Green Goblin. Use a Spider-Verse character and a Sinister Six character, so will double unlock both for Shuri and for Invisible Woman. Both really solid legendaries for your progress in your game, so I would definitely recommend that. And then after that, probably 2-9 here at Scientist Supreme. Also a very good character. Now, she is like sort of the basis of the AIM team, which you don't have to level, but as a standalone character, she is pretty strong as well for things like raids, Dark Dimension, and other game modes too. So she is a character worth unlocking and worth investing in a little bit too, I think. Now, Mystics is like sort of the last sort of late game chapter that isn't sort of Nexus 8, Villain 7, and Hero 7. So this is actually the last chapter before those three. And out of there, obviously, Loki is the standout at 3-6, but I think that's a bit late game, or not late game, sort of later mid-game. I think the power levels of the enemies are somewhere around 30k maybe, so it will be a bit more trickier to unlock, but you'll want to work on Storm, sorry. I was in Storms over here. You'll want to work on Loki so that you can shard farm for him further to unlock for Black Bolt. Now, aside from that, you could do against Storm if you want to unlock Magneto, but I wouldn't necessarily, you don't need to do that. So, Loki is the standout here of the Mystic Forces campaign here, once you do get along to that. Now, we're getting along to the store here, so this is where it's important, because for early game and mid game players both, depending on what kind of alliance you're in as well for raids, you're going to be picking up a lot of these sort of credits, depending on how much you blitz, raid or do arena. So again, I think that getting the Sinister Six characters geared up and ranked up to at least the 5-star level is very important for getting Shuri and Invisible Woman. So for that reason, I would say that Rhino is a really important character to take out of the Blitz store. Another good character, I think you start with Spider-Man anyway, so you don't necessarily need to get him there. Miles could be another fill-in for the Spider-Verse. So Miles will help you unlock Shuri, but not help you unlock Invisible Woman. The reason why Sinister Six is recommended is because they are 5 that fill in both for Spider-Verse, the Spider-Verse trait, and the Sinister Six trait, which can unlock 2 different legendaries for one team, really, so it's kind of like a double investment. Now, there's a lot of characters in these stores that really aren't worth it at this point. Kree Royal Guard, he is required to unlock Nick Fury, but aside from that, there's a lot of trashy characters. Ant-Man, Crossbones is getting a bit of a rework next patch with Baron Zemo, but I don't think he's someone that you need to focus on right now as an earlier mid-game player. Merc Ryguard, decent tank, but again, he is used for the Payday Flash event, but other than that, you don't necessarily need to unlock him. Strife, Toad, both for the Marauders team. Again, I wouldn't really consider this in the early game. I don't think it's a necessary thing. Gamora, Mantis. Also, if you're working towards Star-Lord, then consider that. But I don't think that Star-Lord needs to be a fiction. Isn't something that you have to work on at this time. I think you're going to get more benefit out of unlocking Shuri or Invisible Woman. Definitely Shuri. She's a very strong character, strong support character. So by being able to build up this Sinister 16, you'll unlock 2 for the price of 1. Now, Luke Cage, all the minions are in, there's a bunch of minions and you're in the thing. So again, there's no point in building up Fantastic Four if you don't have Invisible Woman, because she really brings them all together. So I wouldn't even consider getting Thing until after you get Invisible Woman. So really, my take home here is Rhino. If you really want to push Shuri and get other Spider-Verse characters, then you can get Miles. Aside from that, I mean, that's really up to you. Gamora or Mantis if you want to unlock Star-Lord, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily, you don't have to do that. So for the raid store characters, again, Mysterio's here. So he's Sinister Six, also helped to unlock Shuri, and that's a good choice there. Outside of that, I would recommend maybe Rocket if you need a good Cosmic Blaster, and then Thor to work towards the Asgardian farming for Black Bolt. Outside of that, you don't really need most of these characters here, to be honest, until maybe the late game when you want to fill out your roster more wider. So War Machine for that Power Armor team, Killmonger for really the Merc team at this point, and then Ronin. Ronin's down here for Phoenix, so you do need Ronin the Accuser for Phoenix. But I would consider Phoenix after you've already unlocked Shuri and Invisible Woman by farming up the Sinister Six. I think after you get Shuri and Invisible Woman, then that's when you should start working a lot harder to do Black Bolt and Phoenix. Now, if you can do all of those at the same time, that's even better. But it really depends on what kind of alliance you're in terms of how many raid credits you're going to be getting on a daily basis. And if you can sustain that, then sure, you know, pick up Mysterio, Thor, and Ronan at the same time, and maybe a little bit of Rocket. But if you can't, then definitely I would recommend Mysterio first. The others, Kree Oracle, used for Nick Fury, like I said, like Kree Royal Guard, but not really a necessity at this point. And the others are kind of trashy. So Ravager, Stitcher, Shield Trooper, Merc Soldier, Sabretooth, if you're working Marauders, but not really necessary until the late game. Namor, again, not necessary really unless you have Invisible Woman and the rest of the minions here. Arena Store, same thing. You know, we have Vulture here, and that's part of the Sinister Six team here. I realize that my head might be in the way just now, so I'm gonna actually do this, and I'm gonna move over slightly this way. So hopefully I'm not blocking you guys, and I apologize if I was. So Vulture here is in the Arena Store. Definitely recommend it for the same reason I just recommended Mysterio and Rhino, so I'm not going to go over that again. Mordo is actually a decent character to consider to at least unlock. So Mordo is a villain Mystic controller. So you do actually need him for Phoenix, but also that he's really good in the Villains campaign, he's good in the Cosmic campaign, and he's good in the Mystic campaign. He has a lot of control abilities, and he is a very solid character in his own right for that reason. So a second character for me, my recommendation would be Mordo. After that, obviously, you have Heimdall, which you'll need him to unlock Black Bolt, but I would focus on Vulture first. Heimdall as a character isn't really that good as a standalone character, so you know, he isn't really great outside of unlocking for Black Bolt, and he's just kind of there on the team. Everyone else, you don't really need too much at the present moment. Crystal here is an Inhuman, and that's used to unlock Ebony Maw. I don't know why I blanked there for a second. But you won't need to do that until after you get Black Bolt. Now, you could do this simultaneously, again, if you have a lot of extra chart and arena credits, but normally that most people just have enough arena credits to do one character at a time. So I would recommend Vulture first. Mordo if you need a good character, a good villain, Cosmic, Mystic character, and you'll need him for Phoenix anyways. And then on the side after that, Heimdall for Black Bolt, sorry. And then the rest I don't really think are super necessary. Drax, if you really need a hero or a Cosmic tank, he's a good sort of filler. He has Spawn Taunt, and he has a good sort of drop and drag character, but aside from that, not really. Now, the rest of them aren't really all that necessary, and I'm not really going to go over them too much, but the point that I wanted to make for Arena: Vulture, Mordo, Crystal later, Heimdall later, and that's pretty much all you need to consider in the immediate. The rest of the characters, you know, like, are very late game that you'd want to consider, or not even worth considering. Warsaw, this is a tricky one because it is a bit of a late game thing. I don't think Alliance War unlocks until later on, so in terms of the characters that you might be wanting to get, these really are the best characters that you want to be considering out of that. Sif and Carnage for sure. You heard me talk about the symbiotes, so Carnage is a character that you're going to want to consider there, but Sif particularly is what you need for Black Bolt. So Sif is another Asgardian character, so if you want to unlock Black Bolt, you're going to need Sif. So farming shards for Sif out of this is really important. Now, aside from that, you don't even bother Nobu, because, I mean, with Nobu you can farm on a node. So Sinister is the only other character out of there that's worth farming. But personally, you know, if you're a newer player, I would recommend farming Sif up as soon as you can, because then that'll help you unlock Black Bolt. And while Hela is largely going to be the block for you probably at this point, if you don't have that node unlocked, then I think Sif is the secondary block to that normally because of how rare the war currencies are. So you're going to want to focus on things like that. Now, I mean, this is a really good infographic because it shows all the rest of the characters as well. So this has changed because Rescue is now actually a regular Blitz store character, but you do have Captain Marvel and Coulson in the Mouse and Orbs, and that's just luck of the draw. Same with Premium Orbs, Yo-Yo and Minerva, luck of the draw. So I just wanted to show this to you guys here. Really great infographic, and I hope some of my recommendations help you guys consider who you want to start farming for your characters. I don't know why my nose is so itchy. I think that really you guys want to work on towards unlocking these legendaries on the right. So Phoenix, Shuri, Invisible Woman, Black Bolt, and then eventually after unlocking Black Bolt, you'll unlock Ebony Maw for the Black Order. Now, in order to unlock Ebony Maw, you need 5 Inhumans, but one of them has to be Black Bolt. So that's kind of a bit of a block. It's a bit of a legendary within a legendary. So I wouldn't really focus that right in the immediate, but keep that in the back of your mind when you're, when you're farming certain characters and what you want to do with that. And so I would, for newer players, definitely consider unlocking Shuri and Invisible Woman first, and then second to that, I think, is unlocking Phoenix and Black Bolt via the Villain Mystic Controllers for Phoenix and the Asgardians for Black Bolt, and that will help you tremendously as you move forward through the game. And those are my recommendations for shard farming and for store farming. So I hope some of this helped for you guys. And if it did, please let me know. And if it didn't, also please let me know. And if you have some criticisms about what I recommended, then also leave that down below in the comment section. And so yeah, I just wanted to make this video to help some of the newer people who might be a bit overwhelmed with all the choices in the game in terms of characters. And as you can see, really, I would say that at least a third or to maybe even half of the total roster is a lot less relevant these days, in terms of overall usefulness. So I really wanted to cut that down and make it a bit easier for you guys. I hope that it helped, but if anyone wants some more personalized advice, then feel free to comment below or get at me via Discord, where I'm available most days on my channel or through direct messages, and you can find all that info for that in the description below. But that's all for me for today, and if you enjoyed my video, then please smash that like button and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. And of course, until next time guys, stay safe and see y'all next time. Boylon signing out.